Welcome. Good evening. I'm Amr Ali. Welcome to this literary event by AGYA. I teach at the American University and at another university in Berlin and Hassan University in Morocco. I have a PhD in sociology and philosophy, but I love literature and novels, something that's close to my heart. We start with the story of AGYA, the Arab German Youth Academy. The story started 9 years ago. The idea was to bring together Germany with the Arab world and the different Arab countries. I started in 2019 with AGYA. Before Corona times, we met in Beirut, and then 2 months later, everything closed down. The world was closed, and we saw another world. We were patient. We continued the journey online until we were able to meet offline again. I am from a field, or the field of sociology and philosophy. The nice thing about AGYA is that it is allowing us to connect with other people and to do something that is interdisciplinary and not just focusing on one discipline. For example, I am from a humanities background and I am able to talk about people from medicine and engineering and the different fields to be able to have a new project that has not been done before, for example. I just have one request to the viewers with PhD, and if you are in Arab countries or Germany, you can apply to the next year program because we have a 5-year membership and you can be part of the AGYA family and you can see a different world, something between academia and society. Today, we will talk about, or will be part of the Literary Salon. This is an important AGYA project. The idea is to bring writers from Germany and the Arab world in order to talk about something else than they will talk about in politics or academics. You can say that literature can open ways in our brains and it opens windows to the idea of the past and the future and history. Today, we have with us Mrs. Maha Hassan. Welcome, Maha. Thank you for joining us in AGYA Online. We wish to have been able to be in the same hall. Hopefully, this will happen next time. She is a Syrian-Kurdish writer and she writes short stories. Today, she will read parts of her novels and explain about her experience in writing novels. The salon will be run by Bilal. Thank you, Bilal, for this project that you are going through. The theme we will talk about is exile, among other ideas. The idea of exile is a main experience for many generations from the Arab world. Diaspora and exile is part of the experience of people from the Middle East and North Africa. All writers like Edward Said and Mahmoud Darwish talk about exile. Even Najib Mahfouz, who had never left Egypt, you can find the idea of internal exile in his books. Specifically, since 2011, the idea of exile has become more widespread, and it's an idea that connects all those who took part in a bigger picture, and you find them now in France, Germany, and Europe, and everywhere. Of course, not just exile. The issue relates to questions like war and the freedom and what it means to live in a world that is not stable. I will not take long time. I will leave the floor to Bilal, who will take over. Thank you. Thank you, Amr, for the introduction and the introduction of AGYA, and I welcome you all, even though virtually. I also welcome my guest, my very dear friend, Maha Hassan. The idea of the literary salon, it's one of the AGYA projects. I created it along with my colleague from St. Andrews University. We were with you in Berlin, offline, actually, physically, with another literary salon with Iraqi writer Fadl Azzawi. And then we met virtually with Mohsen Al-Ramli, the Iraqi Spanish novelist. And today we are with the Syrian writer Maha Hassan. Next month, we'll be in Istanbul with Daniela Danz, the German writer. We will be in Istanbul, but it will be shown virtually on the 3rd of December. Our conversation today, just like my colleague Amr said, it's about freedom, writing, and war and exile. What does it mean to write in Arabic in exile or from exile? And when you are not an Arab, and what does it mean to write with freedom about a big prison that was once your homeland? In this conversation, the Syrian-Kurdish writer Maha Hassan talks about her novel writing experience. Maha Hassan, of course, is a Syrian novelist, one of the most distinct voices, actually, that write in Arabic today. She lives in France since 2004. France has become her homeland, and she writes in French, and she has French nationality or citizenship, so it is a homeland for her. Two of her novels have made it to the long list of the International Prize for Arabic Fiction or Arabic Booker, namely Umbilical Cord in 2011 and Female Voices in 2015. Her novel reached the long list of the Sheikh Zayed Book Award in literary category, namely Aleppo Metro, Good Morning War, and The Neighborhood of Wonder, that made it to the short list of the Najib Mahfouz Medal for Literature. She has 13 novels in Arabic and one novel written and published in French and not translated from another language. We will talk about it at length today. Her most recent work is Aleppo Women, and some of her novels are translated into Italian, Dutch, and Kurdish and other languages. I remind you, for those following us, you can ask the questions through the Q&A box at the bottom. I will ask the questions to writer and novelist Maha Hassan during the conversation. In this session, we'll have two readings, and we will move from one topic to another. The first topic I want to discuss is identity, place, and freedom. Maha, you got a BA in law from Aleppo University. You were born and grew up in Aleppo. And from law into a brilliant novelist today. I want to know more about this journey. What is the secret behind this radical transformation from studying abstract laws into a brilliant novelist? Why did you choose to enter the world of literature? Welcome Bilal, welcome Amr, welcome everybody. First of all, I would like to say that I am very happy to be with you today. And honestly, I didn't know about AGYA. And when I read the introduction, and that's in Arab German Academy for youth, I was wondering what do I have to do with it. When Amr spoke and when you spoke about it, I understood more. And I like this idea of opening up to the experiences. We feel that they are not related, but of course these human and scientific endeavor is very pleasing to me. And you, Bilal, you are a very deep person. You are an academic also. You combine both academic experience and the humanitarian nature, which is very intimate and very human feeling or touch. And sometimes we believe that academic people are not like this, but not to the contrary. I am so happy to be in this place where I can see openness to literature and science. And at this very moment, I remember Aristo Sabato, and I use his name in my novel, The Storytellers. He was a mathematician or a mathematics teacher, and at the age of 60, after he left teaching, he started writing. So I always say that there is a connection between literature and academic life. I'm so happy to be with you tonight. I feel that this is a very new experience to me to talk with academic people on a space related to spirituality, if you like, which is not proven scientifically, or we cannot have academic theories on in order to reach it. So why did I jump from law to literature? Law was just something I studied. It was a university branch that allowed me to study, to work in a field that I can earn my living from. And even in my novel, I say there, I was born to tell, like Marquis said, I was born to tell. I believe that I was born as a writer. Academic people maybe don't like that, but I had the seed. I had the biological seed of a writer, if you like. So this writing had to come out at some point, at some age. If Sabato believed or saw it at the age of 60, Rambo, it appeared in his case in the 20s. So this seed will have to come out, because I believe that it is something genetic in the person. Genetic doesn't mean you inherit it from others, but it is something related to the specific character of the writer. So I had to be a writer, if you like. Bilal, since you were born as a writer in terms of strength and not action, you had the seed, the potential to write. You are saying, I want to get deeper. You say in an interview that you were lonely in Syria in a world that is not homogeneous. And this loneliness, tell me about this loneliness that made you or turned this potential to write, brought it into real life. What moved you? What moved the seed inside you in Syria to write? Being a writer, I was contemplating. Writers usually investigate, contemplate, meditate. They are always curious. Curious about what's around them. So they take what is around and reproduce it in their own factory, if you like. Writing is an individual endeavor. I cannot be a writer unless I am lonely or alone, unless I feel that I have something, with some reservation I say this, but suffering, quote unquote, not in the negative sense. Let me call it experience. If I don't have, quote unquote, the special experience I want to talk about, then I will not write a text. So this experience has to be born from loneliness. Even if you are in a wedding party or in a busy street, but you are alone. This is the relationship with imagination, with language, with the construction of idea had to be born out of loneliness or the one being alone. So the more contradictions around you see, the more you see drivers in this to search, and the richer you are to work. And with these contradictions and lack of harmony, since I'm not an academic person, I cannot speak with certainty. I don't have a theory to tell, but I have experiences to tell. So I can say that the more there is lack of homogeneity around you, the more you go back into your inner world, and the more you have your own harmony from within with yourself. Your father was a communist, of course. There was a lot of literature at home. There's even Russian literature. We are friends for a long time, when we have spoken years ago when you were in Dubai about the impact of those reading, the impact on your writing. Who impacted you? Which writers impacted you, or which readings impacted you or influenced you? This is a difficult question, Bilal, because sometimes a sentence in a magazine you don't even know who wrote might attract your attention. I don't want to mention big names because I might be doing disservice to the marginalized. I am part of the marginalized. I don't want to say this Dostoevsky or Kafka or Nietzsche or Sartre or Kundera. This is all true, yes. But on parallel, you might meet somebody in the metro, somebody, an old man, uneducated, smoking a cigarette. You might see something in their eyes and say, this is the sentence I want to write about. So I am afraid to say who influenced me among writers. Maybe normal people, ordinary people. I mean, I like something about me I'm proud of. It's not narcissism, or I believe that I am the voice of those people. Bilal, I will go back to this idea. I have a full topic to talk about Aleppo women and the voices. We will go back to this. And this is something very interesting. I want to, since we are talking about identity, you are a female writer. Sometimes your literature is described as feminist. Of course, you have been put in many categories. Some of those categories are contradictory, and you are above all such categorizations. But you also state in one of your interviews that creativity is feminist. You write in the Daughter of Wilderness, we cannot write and change the world and change the world until we are free. What does freedom mean to you? And does it have limits? And does writing help create a free woman? Have you been freed by writing? Have you been set free? The answer is yes, to a large extent. Freedom is a long journey, a long project, and I have used this in France 2 days ago. I've talked about this. When I am with French women or European women, I don't feel that I am free enough in comparison with them. But when I am with Oriental women, I feel too free, if you like. So freedom is dependent on the concept prevalent in society, and freedom sometimes can be relative. My own personal freedom, or the way I see it, is what we are doing now is freedom. I can say whatever I think of for the purpose of leaving an impact. this is the freedom that you and I are enjoying. You and I are able to talk about things that might be useful to somebody who is just passing by, who could hear a certain statement says, I want to say this or I want to do this. So freedom is not an individual project. When I write about women freedom, I don't mean that it is a personal project as much as I feel that I always say that I was born to tell. I am giving a testimony to other women so they can see to what extent their experiences could cross with my experience, and that they can go one step up on the ladder of the relationship with the self, because the relationship with the self is very important. When I talk to you, Bilal, I don't feel there is police in my head, so I feel I'm free. To a large extent, I believe that the police officer in my head is out of my life. I am trying to think while talking to be really honest of what I am saying. Do I still fear? If I sit with somebody, maybe sometimes there is a police officer in my head, but I have been able to set myself free from this police person, and the status of being a writer had helped me. The idea of being a writer gave me existential safety. I'm not speaking in a nurse's sense. Writing becomes a bridge to safety, if you like. Sorry? Irresponsibility. Bilal said. Maha. Yes, I agree. I told you a few minutes ago that I want to leave an impact, or I want to be helpful. It's not about my personal project, or of course I have to be free in order to achieve that. If I am not free, then I will be lying. I cannot borrow a story that I don't believe in or I didn't live deeply to present it. People will see that I'm just giving theories. The freedom means the relationship with the self, and as you said, we were born in a prison. As you said, we are born in countries. The first thing we learn is that don't say this or that before this or this person, and it's shame to say this or that. They teach us always how not to say things, and I discovered in my French years that things that should not be said are the really important things. The treasure lies in the taboo we hide, although this is the best thing that you should talk about. Sartre, I didn't find the reference, but I read it one day and it is in my head. He says, the best part of literature is the shameful part of literature. What we hide is really what creates this beauty and aesthetical part in literature. You say that the future of a global novels lies with Arab women novels. Nobody asks you to talk in more details about that and what you mean. In umbilical cord, I use this because I believe that the art of novel writing has not been served well in the Arab world. Arab literature is about poetry, and the novel is a Western art that is imported from abroad. And so I am somebody, I am very open and free, but I am very fanatic about the point of novel. I always feel disheartened when people talk about the novel in a painful way. So I believe that the voice or the silence in the Arab world and the silence by women means there are many places not used. Like it's untapped oil fields, if you like, untapped moral oil fields. Those treasures stories of Oriental women have not been told yet. And when they will come out, what's happening now, I don't know if I will jump away from the question, but the question of exile, when Syrians come to Germany, or when Afghani people come to Germany, or Ukrainians, of course, the Ukrainian experience is a bit different because they are part of Europe and they have freedom of expression somehow. So when those people come, the repressed people come to European societies and they discover themselves and they are reproducing their stories. Those stories are hidden treasures. So I believe that the future of global novel writing will be through the return to those unknown areas, those raw, the word I was searching for is raw, those raw areas, if you like, that have not been tapped or explored yet. Nice. I want to talk in each topic at least about one novel that is close to your heart. I want to talk about your novel in Anne Frank's house. Anne Frank, the icon of the Jewish person who has been oppressed. Tell us about Anne Frank, which the story includes a journey to Palestine from an identity perspective. We know what identity means. How did you deal with it? Anne Frank is not an imaginary journey. I lived in Anne Frank's house in Amsterdam for 1 full year in the apartment where she came to when her family escaped Nazi Germany to Amsterdam. They lived in a house, Merve line 37. This family came here when the German danger or the Hitler government danger approached the family, sought refuge in the place which is now the museum. The house I stayed in is not the museum. It's an apartment that was bought by Amsterdam municipality and Ministry of Culture in Holland. It was an initiative by Salman Rushdie to receive and give refuge to the writers who are in danger because of their political positions. So I received an invitation to stay 1 year in Anne Frank's house, and I was so scared. The book was born there. I was talking about fear. I could hear voices of sighs, Anne Frank's sighs and her family sighing. I was afraid of Anne Frank. I told those stories in the book. She would come to me. Why did you come? They took me out and put me in a pit and killed me, and now you are just sitting in my home and trying to be a writer. I said to her, I'm not here to occupy your home. I am a writer too, and the reason I am in Holland is because I am a refugee who escaped Syria, or ran away from Syria. So it is such a fearful conversation between Anne Frank and me. I felt she is rejecting me, and I felt guilty for staying in the house of a girl. Even her the diaries. He gave her a diary book and she started writing her diaries in this place. So I wrote the first part of the novel over 10 years. I wasn't confident to publish the book until the war broke out in Syria. When the war broke out in Syria, I felt that in Anne Frank's diaries, the things that mom tell me when the war in Syria started, my mom started telling me stories on how they are filling water, how they are, storing pasta, the things she was talking about in her diaries. I mean, Anne Frank, I felt I have materials that I can, so it's not just the diaries in her house. So in Ramallah forum on novels, I had this personal conflict, if you like. I am the guest of the Palestinians, but I was in the house of a Jewish woman, so I had this feeling of responsibility towards Anne Frank, who is a victim, and towards the Palestinians who, although they are hosting me and I love them, I support the Palestinian cause, and as Kurds we have a lot of common things with the Palestinians, from Salim Barakat, the historic relationship between Salim Barakat and Mahmoud Darwish. So I had the world of lack of harmonious relationship. So Jewish girl on the one hand, the Kurdish girl on the other hand, Palestinian person on the other hand. So I decided to visit Anne Frank, to lend her my body. I asked her to come into my body and to see Palestine through her eyes. Nice. You are living now in France and you write in both Arabic and French. What does Paris mean to you? Is it exile? Is it the homeland? I know that you are thinking about writing a book about your Paris experience. Tell me more about the Paris you know. I left Paris years ago and now I live in a city, small city on the British borders. Paris, how shall I say it? Paris is one thing and the rest of France is something else. The image of France is different than the image of Paris. To learn about France, to know France, and this is what I had the chance to do, is to see different regions of France, different governorates or different cities in France. Paris is a very harsh city, very harsh. Paris, I always liken it, and I talked about this in Anne Frank's book, the relationship between Paris and Amsterdam. When I was in Amsterdam, I could commute to France because I had family there, so I could feel how Amsterdam is called the Netherlands or the lower countries. It is a very low-spirited, very quiet, calm, very nice. And on the other hand, how harsh and noisy Paris is. Paris consumes the human being and swallows the human being. So I like the word, I will repeat this word, harmony, disharmony. So if you like, there was this rural girl inside me because I grew up in a village and I used to like the village. When I went to Amsterdam, I felt relieved. I would walk in the street and feel relieved. But in Paris, I feel that I have fear. It is one of those cities that don't make you feel you are human. Paris is very noisy. Even during COVID, many of them left Paris and lived in rural areas or in the areas away from the crowd. There is even a slogan repeated by French that Paris is sleeping, eating, and metro only. They wake up, they take the metro to work, they come back to sleep at home. So the Parisian life is very harsh. I'm talking about the ordinary life. For culture, Paris gave me a lot. I think you talked about writers When Amr, I think, in the beginning, when he was doing the introduction, he was talking about writers who find a place in the West. So for sure, Paris has given us many important literary names. I don't know if you talk about this, Bilal, but what is important is the impact of Arab writers on French culture, and this is something that people don't talk about. I want you to talk more about this, please. Jacques Derrida has a big place in the French culture, and he's of Arab descent. I don't think he speaks Arabic, I'm not sure. Jacques Derrida is the outcome of quote-unquote colonial, French colonial culture of North Africa, Arab North African countries, Morocco. Al-Tahar bin Jalloun, you mean, and Asya bin Jalloun, Atib Yassin, of course. Amin Malouf, yes, of course, exactly. So there is contradiction that this culture that was the country of occupation has given a place for others. Camus, when he talked about Algeria war, he condemns the French, but Camus got Nobel Prize. Nobel is not French, but anyway, his place in France is reserved. So this contradiction, the Arab intellectual, they have found a place in the French cultural scene. So France, at the end of the day, can be the mother, the welcoming mother. There are many big names like Amin Malouf. There is Layla Sulaimani, who got the Concours award. Abdel Fattah Ekleto. There are big names who got their place. Maha, anyone following you when you were writing in Syria, Maha Hassan, who used to write in Syria, is very different from Maha Hassan, who started writing in France. In Syria, you wouldn't talk about identity, Kurdish identity. I felt that you went back to Syria when you were in France, as if when you were in Syria, you just wanted to be part of the world. And when you reached France, you wanted to be Syrian, maybe because it's you are deprived of homeland. I don't know. Tell me more about this experience and how Maha Hassan changed in terms of writing and literary products. When I was in Syria, I wrote pure literature, which is nice literature. I liked it. I have Taratil al-Adam novel, but the literature I wrote was not in touch with others. When I came to France, the safety I felt, it's like those things that we shouldn't talk about there becomes an advantage here to talk about. I was too late to say I'm Kurdish. I didn't say this. The French taught me to say I am Kurdish. If I am in a conference or a forum, they say, don't forget you are Kurdish. So I started hearing it from them. They taught me to learn about myself. I still had this, it's like the child who is hiding and shouldn't talk about their own issues to others. Among the defects, if you like, is that I am Kurdish. It was something shameful somehow because of the repression. They said the Arab Socialist Party, Syrian Arab Republic, those were the names. So we were Kurds. We were not recognized as Kurds, and I write in the Arabic language. I want to search for a place for me in literature. And the way to do this is through Arabic. So I put aside my Kurdish identity. I put it aside. When I came to France, I found others receiving me in my full identity. There are the Bretons and the Normandy. So they have this diversity and they welcome the strangers. We were talking about how France received others and welcomed others like Milan Kundera, Atiq Rahimi, writers from all other nationalities, and they've become very influential on the French cultural scene. So French culture had encouraged me to say who I am and what I am close to. And this was linked with a responsibility when I wrote The Daughters of the Wilderness. I couldn't write about this because people know about honor crimes. I don't talk about it. When I came to France, when I say honor crime, people were wondering, are there women who are killed? I said they were killed because of hearing about them. We don't even verify the information. We don't know what they did, or maybe they are killed for reasons not related to honor, but then they are called honor crimes nevertheless. So things that were unspoken about there, I reconsider them because of the feeling of responsibility. Like I told you, I felt I am responsible for those women. And since I am in a free country and I have a podium, a forum, I have to speak because they cannot speak. Correct me if I am wrong, if I have the wrong impression or the right impression. I believe that you have a lot of passion among the Kurds, Jan Dost, Salim Barakat. You are passionate about the Arabic language, as if those murderous identity that Amin Malouf talks about, it's in our countries in the Orient. As if when we realize the Oriental part of us, those ideas or identities reconcile and they love each other. Correct me as a Kurdish woman who lived this experience. Tell me about your different identities. My mind was established in the Arabic language. I entered the world of reading. I read Nietzsche and Kafka. Translated, I used to read it in Arabic. I enjoy the vocabulary, the Arabic. When I was searching for the word and I found the word mine, I enjoy Arabic. I am fortunate that I know Arabic. It is difficult for foreigners. Arabic is a very difficult language because it has a lot of vocabulary, a lot of imagery and rhetorics. And through literature, I hope we can improve the Arabic language from its lexical problems. Arabic for me is a big passion. Kletlo, he says, I speak all languages, but I love Arabic. It is a very we should separate politics. If a Kurdish person with ideology, if they hear me speak, they will say I have become an Arab and I'm betraying my Kurdishness. This is a political problem, and this is where is the source of the problem. Epistemologically, aesthetically, I enjoy reading in Arabic. The problem will be solved if the other political problems are solved.
أعجبني مها إنه اليوم صباحا أظن أو أمس مساء وضعتي على الفيسبوك إحنا طبعا
We are friends on Facebook, and I noticed that while preparing, I asked you to write. You said you enjoyed your text when you read it aloud. I like this idea, and it is time to read a text. It is time to read a text. Please read something. I will read from Good Morning War.
حط النظارات.
I will put my glasses and read the text.
وأنا كنت معلمة الصفحة بس ماني ملاقيتها.
Good morning, War.
أنا يمكن عندي
لقيتها. في مقطع رح أقرأ اسمه حديقة الحارة.
It's called the neighborhood park. I lost my mind today and obeyed my female neighbors. I never believed that I was crazy, but today I really believed that I am crazy. The weather was nice. It was a springtime and you could smell the village, the smell of the vegetables and the smell of the water spring in Genderes where I grew up as a young woman and used to go to the spring to wash the wool along with the girls in my village. We would there go laugh and celebrate spring. Springtime meant the water spring in Genderes. Springtime now is the tabbouleh salad and fresh vine leaves in the neighborhood here. The spring tabbouleh salad is not like the Kurdish winter tabbouleh salad that you love, aldonek, for which I stir fry the onion in oil and add it along with tomato paste and burgol and vegetables. The spring tabbouleh salad means fresh vine leaves that I pick from the vine directly and soak it in warm water a little bit so that its green color turns into pale yellow color. After that, we put the tabbouleh inside the vine leaves and eat it a bite after another instead of bread. Yes, spring here means tabbouleh, and tabbouleh means gathering, and gathering means neighborhood. You know how much I love the neighborhood and how much I love my female neighbors. You used to be jealous of my love for the daughters of my female neighbors, whom I felt they were just like my daughters. No doubt, you know how Mahmoud's daughters, Amina, Khadija, and Ruqayya would feel jealous of you because their mother would have so much trust in you and would praise your wisdom. But you do not know that sometimes I used to feel jealous of my female neighbor's love for you, particularly Mahmoud's. I was fearful that you would prefer her over me. I had enough with you calling your personal or your paternal Aunt Hanifa as your second mother. As for Hussein Saada, I have never felt jealous of her love for you or of your love for her. She was indeed more than a sister for me. She could have simply been your mother. She is just like that for Suha and Luay. Yes, Hussein breastfed Suha and Luay along with Zainab and Muhammad. So Zainab is your milk sister and Muhammad is your milk brother too. More importantly, it seems I have digressed. Have I not? The female neighbors tricked me. I swear to God that I am dead bored being confined to home. And because it is springtime, they decided to go to the park. I'm crazy and I agreed to go with them. I forgot that I already grew old and that I am no longer young enough to run in the park. Cut parsley, clean green onion, and then rinse it with. Yes, most residents here get their water from the neighborhood tap, particularly those who cannot afford to buy water. Yes, I swear to God that I laugh at our misery as if people here have the ability to buy water. Nobody here buys water except for a few who can afford it because the rich have fled. Most of them have moved to Turkey. Well, we went to the park. The sun was warm and roses were just starting to bloom. Wonderful colors. Yes, I love springtime and the green meadows that are full of violet, yellow, and white colors, as well as aminon. We sat on the green grass and Rami spread the carpet for me to sit on, telling me that cold weather is not good for my joints. I swear to God, Rami is second to none. She's just like my daughter.
المهم
Don't be angry with
جلسنا
me. She
وبدأنا
takes care of me
بتنظيف
while you are
البقدونس
far away.
وتقشير البصل والثوم
Anyway, we
ثم
sat down
قفزت
and
محمد
started
واضعة الخضار
sorting the
المنتقات
parsley,
والمفرومة
peeling
في
the
طست
onions
بلاستيك أخضر
and
لماع
garlic. They jumped,
وذهبت به
then
صوب
jumped
الحنفية
Muhammad,
قبالتها
putting the
غسلت
sorted
الخضار
and
قطعة
minced
قطعة إلى أن
vegetables
صارت
and
تلمع
put
من
them in
النظافة
the pot. We
وضعنا
put the
البرغل
lemon
والليمون
and
والكثير
olive
من
oil
الزيت
on the
كان
tabbouleh.
الطبق الكبير يلمع
It was
بالزيت
shiny,
وماء
and once
أخرش
I took
وأوراق
the vine leaf
اليزبرق
soaked
المنقوعة
in
بالماء
warm
الساخن في
water
البيت
and I was
والجاهزة
ready to
للف
eat the
داخلها
tabbouleh,
التبولة حتى
it
قام
was like
بأكلها يا
hell,
مها.
Maha. We did not taste
لم
the
ندق
tabbouleh.
التبولة عفوا
We
لم
didn't
ندق
taste the tabbouleh.
التبولة
We were
صرنا
running in all
نركض في كل
directions. Yes,
اتجاه
I
نعم
tried to
أنا
run.
حاولت أن
God
أركض
gave me the
أعطاني
power
الله
to
القوة
crawl and try to
لأزحف
hide.
وأحاول الاختباء
Shells were raining
كانت
down
القذائف تسقط
just
مثل
like
المطر
the
مثل
violent
المطر الربيع
spring
العنيف
rain,
مثل
like the
أسنان
teeth of an old
العجوز
woman. They
كثيرة
were
وسريعة
abundant,
وعنيفة
fast, and violent.
لحظات لم تطل
Moments later,
حين جاء
Muhammad
محمد
came with
بسيارته
his big
الصالون
car to
الكبيرة
collect us
ليجمعنا
from the
من
entrances
داخل
of the
البيوت من
houses
مداخل
where we took
البيوت التي
shelter
اختبأنا
opposite the
فيها
park.
قبالة الحديقة
I swear to God, the scene was
والله المشهد
heartbreaking.
يحرق القلب
We were all
كنا نبكي
crying, but
جميعا
I
لا
wasn't sure
أعرف
whether
من
because of
الخوف
fear
أو
or
من فرحة
because we were
النجاة
happy to have survived.
كانت هذه
It was the
أول
first time I
مرة
see
أرى
shells from
القذائف
such a
عن
close
هذه المسافة
distance.
القريبة
The
مرت
car went
السيارة
by the
قرب
fence
سور
of the park
الحديقة
while we were looking
ونحن
at the
نتفرج
place
على
where
المكان
we just
الذي
have
كنا
been.
فيه للتو
We saw dead bodies
الجثث
filling the
قبل
park. There
الحديقة
were children. I
أطفال
swear to God, Maha,
والله يا
bodies
مها
were glued
أجساد
to the
التصقت
trees and the green meadows.
بالأشجار
They
والمرج
mingled with
الأخضر
flowers.
واختلطت بالورد
I was crying like
كنت
children
أبكي
all the way
بصوت
along.
طيلة
I
الطريق
was saying
وكنت
loudly,
أقول
I
بصوت
wish I had
مرتفع
died instead
ليتني
of
مت
the young
بدل
women
نساء
and children.
الشابات والأطفال
Many people did not
كثيرون لم
run.
يركضوا
Many of them did
كثيرون
not
لم
even think of
يفكروا في
running.
الهرب
Perhaps they thought
ربما
that the
ظنوا أن
shells will
القذائف
fall next
تسقط
to
على
them but will
مقربة
not reach
منهم
them.
ولا تطالهم
They have become
لأنهم اعتادوا
accustomed to
النجاة
survival. I don't
لا
know
أعرف
why
لماذا
others
لم
didn't
يهرب
just
الآخرون مثل
run
هؤلاء
like us.
عدنا
The
ناجيات
female neighbor
نحن
survived
السارات ولكن
and
قلبي
we
لم
were back,
ينزل
but my heart did not survive.
بدأت
I
أفكر
started
بالرحيل
thinking of leaving,
ثم خفت
and then I
كيف
felt
أترك
fearful.
البيت
How can I leave home?
سيأخذه
The
الأغراب
strangers will take it
ويحتلونه
and occupy it.
لم
We have
يبقى
nothing
لنا سوى
left
هذا
but this
البيت
home.
لم يبقى في
Nothing of
كل
the family
العائلة سوى
remains
هذا
except this
البيت
house.
سهى تركت بيتها
Suha left her home,
وإخواتي
and so did my
وأخوتي
sisters
كل
and
بيوت
brothers.
العائلة
All the
هجرت هذا
houses
البيت
of the
الأخير يا
family
مها
have been
بيتكم
destroyed, and this is
بيتك
the
وبيت
last
أختك
one of
لا
them.
يطاوعني
Maha,
قلبي على
your
تركه
house and your
حتى فات يا
siblings'
هاجر
house. My
لا أستطيع
heart
الكلام
is
إنها
aching me. I
طائرة
cannot
قطع
leave it.
أصوات تحليق طيران
Even Fadia has immigrated. I cannot talk. It's the warplane. Cut.
شكراً
Voices
على
of
هذا المقطع.
planes flying over.
سأنطلق منه الحفل
Thank you for this, for reading this piece.
هذا المحور أحببت أن
I move to the
أكمله
next
بالتاريخ والرواية ومسؤولية
topic, history,
الراوي.
novel, and the novelist's responsibility. When you
الآن كتبت عن أزمة
approached
أنت
history in writing in novels, I mean, here the history of the Syrian war. You had intimate relationship with your mother. She was in Aleppo. You wrote about the war in Aleppo in Syria. You were writing about a real crisis and a current crisis. What you wrote was described at that time, at least, as the rubble literature or documentation literature. Even when you spoke about novels, you said they lacked imagination somehow because things are in front of you. Rubble literature, if you like. Tell me about this experience and how do you see your writing at that time now after you are psychologically and artistically in a different place? In fact, what I said was related to the Drums of Love, which is a documentary novel. It was the first novel about the Syrian Revolution. And I have a problematic relationship with that novel, The Drums of Love, because it lacks imagination and it lacks the artistic tools. Part of it is documentation, part of it I love this novel. It might be the weakest from a novel perspective, but it's like a sick child who, which was born disabled. So you feel that you want to take care of that child. So the war literature, if you like, while I'm talking to you, I couldn't have imagined one day to be in this experience. The piece I just read, or the excerpt I read, was told to me by my mother. My mom said to me in the novel, "You are a coward." So using my mother's voice was to get over my coward feeling. I think Nabil Sulaiman wrote about it and called the Shahrazad of the war, because I used the technique rather than Shahrazad was keeping silent. Here we saw the planes flying, which would cut the narrative in the middle because of the war. The war experience is very frightening. I wrote 3 novels on that period: The Drums of Love, Good Morning War, and then I did Aleppo Metro. So there was a gradual maturity, if you like, from the first to the third. Aleppo Metro is a mature novel in my view. I worked a lot on imagination because I wrote it after 10 years from the first novel, The Drums of Love. I don't want to say that there was normalization with the war, but I no longer was the shocked girl. In Good Morning War, my mom talks about the house which collapsed. Our house collapsed over my mother's head. The shell came in our house and it just disappeared. So I needed to write.
وبعمل مثل واحد عم يعني كنت انا حالة حرب، كنت انا عايشة حالة الحرب انه عم بلم
الأوقات وعم بكتب. So I was collecting the rubble and running. In Aleppo Metro, I was calmer. I was a bit calmer, if you like, and I started understanding what was going on. I was no longer in shock because honestly, we Syrians, most Syrians, if they listen to me, they will agree with me if they hear what I say now. We feel that we have been cheated. People laughed at us, or we were left alone. There is a sense of betrayal, something unethical which is going on. Those who lived in Syria, the war experience, they came to exile. People are still in fear. They are saying the Danish are bringing back and Turkish want Syrians to go back. Why is this happening to us? We are still paying the price for the war. There's a sentence I say in Aleppo Metro: the world doesn't want us, so where should we go with ourselves? Where do we go? Writing, the experience of writing about war. When I heard about it before, you had this in Lebanon before the civil war, and there was a lot written. When I read the Lebanese novels, I didn't feel, it felt more like a novel and literature. But when I personally lived this experience and I became part of the fabric, I became just a part of the war. I felt how much literature is facing a big challenge to write about something that is itching your or scratching your skin, and you want to make you want to be up to the fear and up to the task, if you like. Let's talk about this idea in depth, because you touched a very, very important point. Documenting war on the one hand, and the literary aspect. So you have to be faithful to both. Have you felt that you had to write about the war because of belonging and ethical and human commitment to Syria and to your family in Syria? I know that you refuse the idea of the literature as a cause. You don't like this term, at least. Or did you write about war because you belong? Is it as a duty, or did you write because you wanted to translate certain pain you felt? Or did you try to reconcile with Maha, who is living the wartime. It's like the writing that is meant to be a cure, or is it just hurting you as well? Who is Maha Hassan who wrote about the war, and why did you write about the war? I believe it's about the experience. Writing in general, or in a way, it is a testimony. I believe that I was giving my testimony in a literary way. I was playing my role. I was outside Syria. I wasn't inside Syria. If I was in Syria, or if I was not a writer, I would have written about the war. So I think it's about the idea of sharing the human experiences with others. We have survived from pain by looking at others' pains. Even this experience, it is very difficult, but I hope that it can be a tool that can help, God forbid, people whose countries are getting into war. I hope they can learn from this. When I was in pain, literally people would stand with me. When I read Hemingway, or even Arab literature, I don't think of names now, they would help me, they would save me. So writing, in a way, is an art of sharing experiences with the readers who don't know what war is all about. I didn't write this novel to the Syrians. I wrote it to people, other people, to know what it means to have the pain of war. And I hope nobody will have to go through this experience. But it seems that the future of humanity is all about war. It seems that no matter how much we work for peace, there are parties that work, on the other hand, more for the concept of war. So writing is probably about of sharing experiences with others. There, I also have my personal motivations. I'm trying to pay the price for my feeling of guilt for being away, because I cannot provide them with electricity or fuel or internet. I cannot work in the revolution like my friends were. I was away, so maybe I'm trying through writing to highlight the dark places. Unfortunately, the war experience was the experience I have never thought that will be the experience I will go through or talk about. So it was the darkness I had to highlight with writing. In history, we have rigid events, and then a novelist has freedom. Where does your imagination stand? What freedom do you enjoy as a novelist, but the historian doesn't enjoy? I never felt this crisis. There are two forms of writing history. There's documentation. The person who works in library, the historian who works in a library, as opposed to the novelist who writes the real history, who talks about the voice of the weak and the marginalized. Yeah, someone says, I didn't hear the name, sorry. Someone says that novel is the history of the marginalized. I'm sorry if I upset you, but in my view, the novelist is stronger than the historian, because the novelist is open to experimentation. He or she has no certainty when they present cases of pain. I am writing about personal pain of Amina, Ruqayya, Khadija, Ali, Bilal, Maha. I am talking about the pain that the historian cannot see. So I believe that the major events, major headlines
شغلة
are those
رجال
of
التاريخ
the men
اللي أنا
of
بحترمها،
history.
بس أنا
But
بحس حالي
I feel
حرة
more
أكتر،
free, and
وبحس
I
بشغلي
believe
في
that my
نبل
work has
أكتر،
more
لأني ما
noble
عندي
side
أجندة.
because I have no
أنا ما
agenda. I am
بشتغل
not working
حتى
in order to
يعني
say
أقول فلان
someone
انتصر على
defeated
فلان.
someone or
أنا ما
someone
عم بحط إنه
uh,
ثم انتصر
or a
الفريق
certain
الفلاني على الكذا
party
وقدمت الهدنة. أنا
was
ماني
victorious.
داخلة
I'm not here
أقدم
to
يعني انتصارات،
uh,
أحقق انتصارات على حدا.
make victories
أنا
at the
جاية
expense of others. I
أقدم،
just want to
أشرح،
explain in details
أفصل،
and present in
أعرض
details the
الألم
human
البشري،
pain
التجربة
and
الإنسانية، حتى الأمل، مو بس يعني
human
مو بس
hope,
الشيء
not
السلبي،
something
يعني حتى كيف
difficult, and
الناس
how
واجهت
people
هذا
face this.
يعني ماما
My mother in Good
عمتي
Morning World
صباحا تحكي
talks
مواجهاتهم
about daily
اليومية
confrontation
لقلة
with the
ندرة
lack of
الطعام،
food, lack
لعدم
of
وجود
electricity,
الكهرباء، كيف
and how they
بيبتكروا
invented ways
الضحك، كيف
to
بيبتكروا المتعة، كيف
laugh, and
بيخلقوا
how they
الحكايات
created
الحلوة.
nice stories. For
فهذا أنا
me,
بشوفه
this
فيه
is a
نبل
noble
وفيه
task,
انحياز
and it
أكثر
is more
للإنسان،
aligned
بينما
with the human
التاريخ
being, whereas
يمكن
history
فيه
we
انحياز
see
لقوى
more alignment with major
كبيرة،
superpowers or
لشخوص،
big leaders.
لزعامات.
That's why
لهيك أنا
I
ما
don't feel
بحس
this
بهذا
conflict. I
الصراع
am not
ولا معنية
concerned
فيه.
about it. I have my
منطقتي
own
لحالي وعم
area which
بشتغل
I
فيها
work in and
ورضيانة
I'm
فيها
happy about.
كتير.
Nice. Second
مقطع
piece,
ثاني
please.
أرسل لنا مقطع ثانيا.
I will
أقرأ
read
من
from
آن
Anne Frank. This is an improvised translation of this text, which was picked a few hours ago. Okay. In Anne Frank's house. And now, dear Anne, it is time for us to agree. I will spend 1 month almost in this house, and I am still feeling cautious. Every time I entered the house, I was afraid of disturbing you. I don't even dare get into your closed room, nor going up to the upper floor. However, maybe it is time that we should agree on something. What do you think? Here I am talking to you loudly. I'm explaining to you everything I do so that you don't feel you are a stranger with me. I describe to you the types of food I cook, the types of songs I hear, and I even tell you about every person who will get to the house before they come, so you are part of my life, and so that you don't feel that I am treating you as a counterparty. You have the right to stay in the house, and I have the right to. Each one of us should admit to the other with that right. This is your house, I know this, but you are dead now. And I was offered to stay here in this house that you lived in 24 years ago, and here we are together. We will share the place. I could have gone back to where I came from and to leave the house for you, but you know that there is another person that will come up in my place, because not many people believe that you are still in this place. This is from your side. You will not benefit from my absence, but for me, I am the woman who escaped everything, who ran away all the time, who's turning a page after the other without continuing to write in this page or reading it, because I believe there is a page that is awaiting for me sometime. That's why I decided to stay here. Me staying here means I am able to defeat my fear, restoring my confidence in the space and some independence. Do you see how important is this? All of this for me? We are very different girls. I belong to a different geography and history and culture. They are different from yours, but we have more in common than we disagree, because we are both obsessed about writing. You were not fanatic about your religion. If you lived longer, maybe you would have become just like me. You would have put religion aside because you are a writer and all you cared about is to write. And so I am. What brings us together, Anna, as the Dutch calls you, is more than what separates us. Although I was born after you, 37 years ago after you, in a part of the world maybe you haven't heard about. I am from people you know nothing about, and I speak a language maybe you have never heard before. I am here listening to Arabic and Kurdish music, and your soul is around me. I am cooking maloukhia and yabrak with oil, and you know nothing about those dishes, but I'm explaining to you, and I am asking you to have lunch with me since we are living together. Let's share our moments together. I translate to you what I write because you don't know Arabic. We live together, two separate beings from different cultures, but we share a lot of things in common. Running away was the biggest theme in your life, and so it is in my case. You escaped Germany, Nazi Germany, and then you escaped this beautiful house, and then they put you in the refugee camps, concentration camps, because you are Jewish. I ran away from a country, I don't know if I can call it my country, because I love it, although I had pain in it, but I learned and got used to escaping. I'm sure you understand me. Your soul was free and you were fighting with everybody, and I too did all of this for my freedom. Here we are together, both of us. Me, the one who was born in 1966 in Aleppo, and you who were born in 1929 in Frankfurt. You speak German, Dutch, French, and maybe Hebrew, and I speak Arabic, Kurdish, and French. Now we are both meeting here at your home in the Merved Blind apartment, which was a refugee place for your family who fled from the Nazis, and now it is a place for me to run away from fear. You understand me very well because you're a writer and because you are a woman and because you are yearning for freedom. We will share the apartment, and each one of us will enjoy her freedom without disturbing the other. Very nice. Maha, the third topic, I wanted to call it on the art of writing. We'll talk about writing and writing profession. I sometimes feel, and correct me if I'm wrong, that real Maha is Maha the writer. It's not just a profession. There are writers who write. Their job is right. Rashid Al-Daif once told me, I am not an intellectual. I have a profession. Real Maha, I believe, is the Maha who writes. As if Maha, who lives with us virtually, is playing a role. Correct me if I am wrong. Sister Lisa, you mean? I was shocked to hear that. I think in Metro Aleppo you said, I don't believe in friendship, just as I don't believe in love, just as I don't believe in family or homeland. I only believe in art. This is what Amina said. This was what Amina said in the novel. Aleppo Metro. This is not me. This doesn't represent me. I have a book which was published recently, Someone Living in My Head, in which I talk about my experience with writing and how I reached this place. I have a friend, I love her so much, and you all love her, which is Inam Kejaji, Iraqi novelist. I wrote once that my real life happens in writing, but outside writing, this is just having fun. So, Inam Kejaji said, you are wrong, Ma. She's my best friend. She said to me, you are wrong. I believe that the first book I wrote, Bilal, is called Unbelonging. From the early days, even before writing, I am fond of diversity that I have inside me as a human being. So writing gives me this space to be more than just one person, to live more than one life. I identify with the characters of my novels. I feel I think Einstein had this. He invited someone for lunch and he was late. So Einstein went out to eat and he said, I ate the food and I forgot. So that person didn't come. So maybe I have this craziness, if you like, about writing. If I'm sitting with people, I believe that I want to go away now. I want to write. I have as if I've left food on the stove or I have left a child. I want to go back to write. So my relationship with writing is not a normal one. I don't wish other writers to have this pain because I'm very much indulged into the world of writing. And I believe that the world we live in, the biological life that God gave us, is very fast. And we will die. We live a definite limit, 1 to 60 or 70, depending on how much God has chosen for each of us. But in writing, you are stealing lives. You are adding more lives. You are enriching. You are inventing. So I believe that the world of writing, I am obsessed with that world of. I still hold to the child inside me. Alice in the Wonderland. And I think you didn't ask me, but I believe this comes from the village within me. When I was in, I don't know if you grew up in a village or in a city. In the village, you have open horizons, which keeps you in contact with other beings. You don't believe you don't see buildings. Your imagination is open to horizons, wide horizons. And I said it in my book, Someone Living in My Head. My father talks about the genies. So my father and I would live in a room. Yes, but we would be traveling to other places. And this is I had a friend who the father would ask his child to close his eyes and they would travel in the room in their imagination. I believe writing is a connection with other many beings, with human beings, even with the non-visible or invisible beings, or even with animals. We can write from the perspective of an animal, or we can humanize objects. Even Sufis wrote about ants. Al-Hallaj wrote about ants, or on the tongue of ants. Maybe it's a disease, I don't know, maybe it's a gift from God, but I am happy with that. I love it. I don't want to recover from this, even if you call it a disease or a sickness. So I am sometimes accused of overproducing. Every 1 or 2 years I produce a book, because all my life is dedicated to this lover, which is preoccupying my head. I mean the novel and writing. Maha, I want to go back to Aleppo. I didn't tell you before, I grew up in Aleppo. This is a big surprise. Yes, I spent a long time. My grandmother is from Aleppo. During the civil war in Lebanon, we grew up in Aleppo. I was in Al Sabil and Shaba. I know those areas very well. So maybe we met once before, but we know each other. I don't know. I liked your last book. It's written in French. It's not translated. It is a nice experience. I learned how you worked on this book with a friend. You say that you are indebted to all women who have appeared in your life. It's clear in the book. The book is called Aleppo Women. You present in it the stories of 80 women. Most of them are women you met or they were part of your life. Your ways crossed with them. Each one of them presents herself from the backstage using the Greek theater techniques. The novel or the book is great. I liked in the novel is that a journey to the world of Aleppo women par excellence. Intimate meetings, intimate reception parties, the biographies of women that have inherited injustice and exile. The history of Aleppo for 100 years. You even start with the story of your grandmother, the Armenian, who you didn't know she was Armenian. I mentioned that my grandmother was from Aleppo. Maha Hassan, what did you want to say in this novel? And if you could tell me about not just the voices. What did you want to say in this novel, but about the shape of the novel or the format, because there is a mixing between different literary genres, something we don't know about or we haven't seen in Arab novels. Tell me more about this novel. Even in the French literature, there was a problem. I had difficulty publishing the book, but any publisher reading the book, they say, is this fiction? Or I refused. I said a novel. I insisted it's a genre novel. They say, okay, a novel of biography. I said, call it whatever you want. It's fiction for me. Many people will tell me, is it testimonies? I say, it's a novel. So I told you, I am so fond of writing, obsessed with writing, so I don't care about the classification. I want to write the text, the colorful text. I am a woman with multiple identities. You talk about women in Aleppo and my grandmother. My mother's mother is from Aleppo, and you know the atmosphere of Aleppo women, they are like always happy, putting makeup, going to the hairdresser. My Kurdish grandmother from my father's side, it's wisdom, prayer carpet, calm words, different spiritual world. So I was brought up between the material, the vital, the happy, the social, and the loving, and the other mental, if you like, and spiritual, contemplative and meditative. But this book is written to the French reader. It's a journey to Aleppo, a journey to the houses of Aleppo, and a journey to the lives of Aleppo women that we see in the streets. We see women with a face cover, a girl who's talking from behind a door and is not allowed to show her face if somebody knocks at the door. I tried to go into the houses of those women and bring people with me and to show the amount of passion and happiness and pleasure in those atmospheres that are those like 1,000 Nights and One Night, the way women sit and talk just like Shahrazad. When I'm talking to Bilal, I feel that I feel very happy that I am a woman, because being a woman, this opens so many doors for me. You young men at certain age, you can go to the Turkish bath, or you can see girls until you are 5, and then you are deprived of the beauty of this world. You cannot enter this world, beautiful world, which I tried to present. At the same time, I wanted to present the issues of violence, repression that women live in. I talked about forced marriage, honor crime, and many other themes. The format of the book, you said it has to do with Greek theater technique. I wanted to have democracy in narration or narrative. Each woman would come and say, my name is so and so, I do so and so, my husband does this and that to me, so and so told me this and that, the story of each woman. So I do another chapter on someone on the story. I talk about the period of the Muslim Brotherhood movement, the individual history, individual stories, along with the history of the country. I started the novel from the Armenian genocide that my grandmother was a survivor of and came to Aleppo at that time after escaping from Turkey. I tell the story of Syria over 100 years of war. So when I talk about the Syrian refugee in Sweden, I'm talking about the history of exile, the new exile. I talk about the Syrian war. I'm talking about the issues related to women, little issues, so to speak, which are crossing or intersecting with the major issues of the country. Because I'm a novelist, I wasn't, or people were not able to classify it. Is it testimony or is it imagination? There is imagined narrative, of course. There are interviews with women, or there were women who could have never met. I had an Armenian grandmother meet with Anne Frank, so they would talk about me. My grandmother is Armenian and Frank is Jewish, and they meet in Amsterdam. So in any work I do, I don't abandon artistic style because we are meant to please the readers. I'm not just writing a book about history or an academic book or talk about political history. So I presented serious history from the perspective of women or social and political issues. And even international issues, I talk a lot about Afrin area in Syria, Kurdish area, women carrying, Kurdish women carrying weapons. I talked about a lot of big issues, but always through women's voices, through women who had always been repressed. We can go back to the idea of that the future is for Arab novels or Arab women novels. I hate classification or categorization. Is this Kurdish literature or feminist literature? I don't like all these categorizations because I believe that I am somebody who writes. My identity is writing, my homeland is writing, my identity is writing, but I benefited from all this diversity, from a Kurdish language being among women and the places I lived in. All of this enriched my world of writing. Maha, I noticed that you talk about this close intimacy, like you said, women who are wearing face cover or hijab. It's a totally different world, very different. And you enter that world in French. Asya Jabbar says that Arabic, French for her is literature, but Arabic for her is related to intimacy of women meetings. You spoke about those things in French. It's not easy to do so. So I want to know about this experience with language, French, and how you wrote a new language in a new language for you, and you pulled it into the deep historical scenes you had from your childhood and those closed worlds. How did this happen? How did you play with French language to express those things? And what does it mean to you that the book was published French and not Arabic? The work was difficult, Bilal, because I was writing in Arabic. It was until now I think in Arabic and I translate my ideas into French. Until now, I rarely write French spontaneously. Sometimes I stop and translate to Arabic because I think in Arabic. That's why I would write in Arabic and then I would translate into French. The book, even for the French reader, is difficult because I describe Aleppo scenes like Nili and Shiryan. You cannot explain to French who is Nili or who is Shiryan on Ramadan quiz. There is a cultural context that cannot be translated, of course. I did some academic work too, if you like, in this book. So people were not sure, publishers were not sure of the genre. This is not pure novel because how can we explain Muslim Brotherhood? Who is Shafiq Fayyad? So I documented about some characters. Nadia Lutfi, I love Nadia Lutfi. So how can I explain to him who is Shadia or who is Asmahan? When I would say my grandmother used to sing and loved Asman and she would sing Asman songs at home. Every time you cannot explain. I am not just bringing the language. How do I get into the mind of the French and bring them into this society which has a lot of the atmospheres of 1001 nights. It is stereotype for them. It is stereotype. So they, in order to understand me, they go to 1001 nights. So they have a problem reading me. Why did you write in French then? I want to know the answer. I want to hear it from you, for the listeners. The first reason you know very well is that I live in France and I carry French citizenship and I am not translated into French. And this is the question I'm always being asked. The French people disturbs me. In the why are you not translated into French? Once I was in Strasbourg, the translator of Rashid al-Daif, Wagner or something, he was telling me, why you're not translated into French? Why? So the first thing is I want my French friends, the French society, the people I live around, the cultural scene to know about me. I am French and I want the French people to know about me and what I write. I want them to know me. This is first. Secondly, they don't know us very well. So I wanted to talk about what's happening in our country through women. I wanted to present a journey to Syria through women. I believe this book is 480 pages. It's a very thick book. In the future, it can be a reference for social issues, maybe for the AGYA academic people. I don't know if there are French parallel academies. I want them to understand the details of the Syrian cuisine, Syrian hijab, Syrian society, the hijab that has nothing to do with religious fundamentalism, and the colors beneath the black color, the nice dresses beneath the black, the music, the smell of food. You have even erotic things in the book. I didn't want to mention this. I was hesitant to mention it, but it's like you are studying an ethnography of these people through the novel. So if you like, it's a testimony of love to Aleppo, Syrian women, Aleppo women, the world of Oriental women. I wrote about Aleppo, but this can be seen in Lebanese, Algerian, Moroccan, Palestinian women. There are a lot of commonalities with other Oriental women, even the Armenian women or the living in Aleppo, the Christian women living in Aleppo, presenting the world of women to the Western world. I wanted to say how rich we are, how diverse we are. This book is a colorful document about Aleppo society, which is very diverse. The Kurds, the Yazidis, the Druze, the Turkoman, diversity, huge diversity, but politics took us into civil war, whereas society itself is a very beautiful and harmonious. People love each other. We would go to those receptions. A woman would come with a hijab and a woman would come half naked. So we didn't have those problems. The world of women is very beautiful and it's always leaning towards love and peace. They don't have those conflicts that were made by political legends. Maha, when we talk about intimacy, let me explain to you what I mean. When we write in French, we steer away from this world and we describe it from the outside. So French might be an important distance, if you like, to describe Aleppo from outside history and outside the place in the last 100 years. So has French language enabled you to get out of the taboos? Yes, very much so. We're talking about taboos. Yes, I agree, Bilal, very much so. I agree with you. The French language has helped me because the French people would remind me of things that I wasn't I was fearful to
الفرنسية
say
هي لغة
French, and I
وأنا
said
حكيت
this
هذا
a
الكلام
while
من
ago.
فترة إنه أنا لم
I didn't
أتعلم
French.
الفرنسية في
I didn't learn
طفولتي
French
في
as a
فرنسا.
child in France,
لذلك
so
الفرنسية
French is
ليست
not
لغة
a
تابو
taboo
بالنسبة لي.
language for me.
تعلمت
I didn't
ما لا
learn
يجوز
in
أن
French what
أقوله
I shouldn't say.
بالفرنسية.
I
تعلمت
learned in
ما
French what I
يجوز
should
ما
and
يجب
I must
ما
what
يحق
I have
لي.
the right to say. So I
فتعلمت
learned to
أعبر
express myself
عن حالي
about
عن
my
فرديتي.
individuality. I learned
تعلمت كل ما أنت
everything
يعني
that
كنت
you would
أكثر
be
التصاقا
more
بذاتك كل ما
glued
كان
to,
مكانك
and the more you
مرحب
are
به
welcome by
لدى
other. I
الآخر.
learned this
وهو
in French.
هذا
This
هو
is
الإبداع الأخي
creativity,
والكتابة،
and this
هو
is the essence
أن
of
تنزل
writing, is
إلى
to go to your
جوهرك
personal
الشخصي
essence
النفسي.
and your psychological
فالفرنسية
essence.
نعم،
Yes, in
أنا
French,
بالفرنسية
I
يعني
don't
لا أفكر
think
إنه
that
هذا
this
سوف
will be
يؤول
interpreted this or
كلامي.
that way.
عرفت؟ ما في
I have no
ليس
worry
لدي
that
قلق
people
إنه
will
يفهمني
misunderstand me,
بطريقة غلط، لأنك أنت
because
لست
you
في
are not in a
موقع
position
تبرير
of
أو
justification
شرح.
or explanation.
بينما
Whereas in
يعني اللغة
Arabic,
العربية
sometimes you
أحيانا
digress a
تستطرد
lot in
كثيرا
order to say,
حتى
I
تقول أنا
didn't
لم
mean this
أقصد
or that.
هذا،
I
أنا
said
قلت
that,
كذا
but I
ولكن
didn't
لم
mean something.
أقصد كذا.
So in French,
بالفرنسي
you
لست
don't have to
مضطرا
explain.
لتوضيح.
You say what you want, and
تتحدث
others
والآخر يعني ما في هي
don't
المعركة
have to pick a
المسبقة
fight with you,
أو
or there's
سوء
no bad
النية
intention to
ليترجمك
translate you.
بطريقة إنه
Oh,
هو
they said this
إذا
because they
يحارب
are against this or
هو
racist.
عنصري. هو
Those
عرفت هي
big
التهم الكبيرة.
accusations.
أنا
I
تربيت يعني
grew
في
up in a
سجن
big
هو
prison called
سوريا،
Syria, in an
وبيئة
environment
كلها
that is full
يعني
of
ايديولوجيا
ideology and
وكلها
fear and
خوف وكلها
calculations.
حسابات
If you
وكلها إذا
say
بتحكي
this,
هيك
the Kurds will
بيزعلوا
feel bad. If
الأكراد،
you
وإذا
say
بتحكي
that,
هيك
Arabs will feel
بيزعلوا
bad. When
العرب.
you come to
تجي على
France,
فرنسا ما
nobody,
بيزعل منك
the
الفرنسي،
French don't
ما بيزعل.
feel
بتقول
bad.
بدك يعني انت شفت
I
ماكرون
discovered that
بتطلع يعني
Macron, you
بتشتمه،
curse
اذا
them.
كبرك
The worst
بيروح
thing
بيشتكي
that
عليك،
can
بيرفع عليك
happen,
دعوة
they will sue you,
ماكرون، يعني
but
ما
they will
بيحطك
not put you
بالسجن
in
ثاني
prison
يوم
next day
لانك انت
because they
شتمته
cursed them,
هيك،
because
لاني هو رئيس
he
دولة
is the
والله جاي على
president. He
باله
can't
يسجنني
put
ولا
you,
مثلا.
تقضي 10 سنين بالحبس
or I will
ولا
disappear in
ايه
prison
انه
10
والله
years
لاني
because
انا
I
ما
don't love
حابه
Macron. No,
ماكرون. لا انا
I
بقول له
can
انه
say I
انا يا اخي
didn't
ما انتخبتك،
elect Macron. I can tell
ما
him in
بدي
his face,
انتخبك.
I
لا
didn't
ما
elect
في ثاني يوم
you.
ببعث
He
لي
will
ناس
not send
يعني
people next day
توقفني
to stop
بالشارع
me in
ولا
the
حدا.
street.
عرفت كيف؟
I
ما
have
عندي فكرة
no idea of the
السلطة.
police officer. So
لذلك
for
اللغة
me, French
الفرنسية هي
is the
لغة
language of
الطمأنينة، هي لغة
serenity,
الطمأنينة، هي لغة الأمان.
assurance, and
بس اللغة
safety.
العربية
Arabic
هي لغة
language is the language of
يعني كيف هي
love.
لغة الحب. عارف
You know, you
شايف
see the
قديش
difference
الفرق
between both?
بيناتهم؟ يعني
Between a
بين لغة
language
أنت
you love and a
بتحبها
language that
وبين
loves
لغة
you.
هي بتحبك.
فأنا
All the
كنت
time I
كل
was
وقت
thinking if
أفكر لو
this book
كتب
was
هذا
written in
الكتاب
Arabic,
بالعربية
how would
كيف
it
كان
different?
مختلفا؟
It
ما
won't be
رح
the
يطلع
same.
هيك. لا
لأنه حتى
When
أنت
you wrote
لما
in
كتبت
French, you
بالفرنسية
gained
اكتسبت حرية
freedom
أو
or the ability
اكتسبت
to
قدرة على
express
التعبير
the
عن
taboos,
الموضوعات، لكن أيضا
but you lost
خسرت
the
التنوعات
diversity in the
اللغوية،
language
لأنه
because
النساء
those
جايين
women
من
come from
أماكن
different parts,
مختلفة،
different
ففي عندهم
accents, different
لهجات، في
dialects.
عندهم تنوع
بالضبط.
لغوي
Certain
معين في
vocabulary
كلماتهم.
صحيح
richness
صحيح
would be lost, right?
صحيح.
If you
طب لو
were
طلب
asked,
منك،
you didn't
أنت لم
translate
تترجمي
the book.
طبعا الكتاب، لكن لو
I
أنت
was worried you would
بتسألني
ask me this
هالسؤال
question. I was worried of
خايفة
this
من هذا
question.
السؤال.
If you are
لو
asked
طلب منك أن يترجم
that the book
الكتاب
will be
للغة العربية،
translated,
هل سوف؟
this is the
هذا
question I'm
السؤال اللي
afraid
بخاف
of.
منه
No,
لا
I
أنا
don't
بقول
want
لا
to.
ما بدي. ما
طب
بدي.
When you
عندما
called
اتصلت
Khalid,
بحالك عندما
when you
عرفت
learned for
لأول
the first
مرة
time
إنه
that
ستي
your
أرمنية.
ستك
grandmother is
أرمنية، اتصلت
Armenian, you
بخالد
spoke to
وخالد
Khalid,
قال لك
and
لا
Khalid said, don't
تكتبي
write
هذا.
this.
إيه. إيه.
يمكن
That's why
عشان
you
هيك
wrote it in
كتبتيه
French?
بالفرنسية.
No, no,
لا
no.
لا
No, I
لا ما
don't believe
بعتقد.
so.
لا بس يعني بعدين القصة
This
هي يعني
happened
صارت تنمو
later,
بداخلي.
but
بس
the
مجرد
moment
ما
I
عرفت
learned,
أنا
I felt that
حسيت
I
إنه
should write
لازم أكتب
something
شيء يعني.
to my
لستي
grandmother
اللي
that
أنا
I
لهلا
don't
ما
know
بعرف
her
شو اسمها،
name,
وكثير هذا الموضوع بقهرني
and I
يعني
feel
إنه أنا ما
bad.
بعرف شو
I don't
اسمها.
know her
فحاولت
name. I
يعني
tried
رد
to
لها شيء من
give
الاعتذار
her back
الهوية
to
المطمورة تبعها.
her buried identity.
عندي
I have a
سؤال
question
من
from the people
الجمهور
before
قبل
we
أن نختم
conclude. We
المقابلة.
have crossed the time.
لنا واستمتعوا الحديث
Talking
معك.
to you is very nice, and we forget we can spend 3-4 hours talking, but I have a question, and I encourage the audience to ask. Do you believe in the neutrality of awards? You have been nominated for many awards and you got many awards.
جائزة
You got a
الحرية
prize for
هي
Helmon Hamet.
Human Rights Watch.
So you
فأنت
got
أيضاً لبس
rewards. Do you
الجوائز. هل
believe in the
تؤمنين
neutrality
بالحرية
of awards?
بالجوائز؟
والله بجد
I don't
أنا ما
like
بحب
those
هاي
questions
الأسئلة
honestly.
لأني يعني
This
هذا
issue is
الموضوع كتير
very
مشكل وكتير
problematic,
واسع
very
وكتير كبير
wide. I don't
وفعلا
like
ما
to talk
بحب
about
خوض
it.
فيه
I feel it
وبحسه
has
انه استهلك
been
كتير. انا
uh,
بالنسبه لي بكتب
exaggerated.
بستمتع
I enjoy
بالكتابه.
writing. If they give
اذا
me
بيعطوني
an award,
جائزه
it's fine.
بكون
I don't
مبسوطه ما
mind
بقول لا.
because
ليه؟ لاني يعني
the
كمان
reward
الجائزه
entails
فيها تكريس، فيها اعتراف،
recognition.
فيها
People
القراء
will know
بيعرفوك
you
اكثر.
more.
يعني
When
انا
I was
لما
nominated to
ترشحت
the Booker
للبوكر
twice,
مرتين في ناس
people outside
خارج
Syria
سوريا صاروا
started to
يعرفوني،
know me.
فانا
So
توسعت دائره
the circles of my
القراء
readers
تبعي.
became
هلا
wider.
انه اجي احكي على الجوائز، عندي
When talking about
قضيتين:
the
اما
award,
ما
there are two
بترشح
things. Either I don't
وباخذ موقف منها،
get a
او
nomination,
بعرف
or I
كل
know
ما
everything
يحدث
and I don't mind
وقابله.
being
هذا
nominated.
هو يعني الكوجيتو هذا تبع الجوائز.
انا كشخص يعني اذا تسنى لي ان يعني اذا كان
If
يحق لي ان اعلق
I
على
have
الموضوع،
to
أنا
comment
كشخص
on this, if I can comment on this as a person, I am in the
اللجنة الفنية
scientific
في مركز أبو ظبي
committee
للجوائز
of
العربية،
Arab
والمشرف على البوكر
Language
والمشرف
Center in
على
Abu Dhabi, which oversees
الجائزة
the
الشرقية،
Sheikh Zayed
إنه الجوائز
Award.
لها
I
موقف
know
خاص
that awards have their
فيها.
own
هي حيادية،
special
يعني
logics.
لها
There are many
اعتبارات كثيرة.
considerations that go into them.
صح، يعني اعتبارات
They have to do
أخذها
with
بالتنوع
diversity,
والتنوع
racial and
والتنوع
geographic
الجغرافي،
diversity,
بالتنوع اللغوي،
linguistic
بكثير
diversity, and
من
many things.
الأمور،
It's
وليس
not
فقط
just
يعني كل من يترشح
anybody who is
للجائزة يستحق
nominated
الجائزة.
deserves the award. It's
الاختيار
always
دائما
difficult to
صعب،
choose,
ودائما
and it
يعتمد
depends on
على
the
اللجنة
committee and
وعلى الأرواح
personal
الشخصية
tastes and
وعلى
many things.
كثير من الأمور.
But
لكن
anybody
كل من
nominated,
يترشح للجائزة
in my
تقريبا
view, deserves
يستحق
the award. If there are
إذا
any
كان في
other
أسئلة
questions
أخرى
from the
للجمهور
audience, we
نستطيع
can
أن
take
نأخذ
one or
سؤالا أو
two more
سؤالين.
questions.
في
At this
هذا الوقت
time,
سأطرح
I will ask
سؤالا.
you a question. You
تقولين
say
أن
that
الكتابة لك
writing for you
بالنسبة لك
is
استعادة للذاكرة. أعجبتني هذه
calling
النقطة.
of memory.
كأن في شيء
It's like there is something that is lost
ضائع،
memories
ذكريات
in the
في
subconscious
اللاوعي أو في الوعي الداخلي والوعي
or deep
البعيد،
conscious, and we try to reclaim it. What
ما هي
are the
الوسائل
tools
التي
that will help the
تساعد
writer?
الكاتب،
What are the
أدوات
tools for you as a
توظف
writer
الكاتبة
to
لاستعادة هذه
restore
الذكريات
memories and put
ووضعها
them
في
in
ذهنك؟
writing?
وهل كل ما
Is
تتذكرين
everything you remember
يجد
finding a
مخرجا
place
له في
to be
الكتابة،
written,
أم
or are
هناك
there things you
أشياء لا
cannot talk
تستطيع
about?
أن تكتبيها؟
It's a
هلا
very
السؤال كثير
difficult
صعب.
question.
أعتقد إنه
Marquez
ماركيز حكى بعشتوا لي
spoke
أرمية
about,
عن
I live
علاقته
to tell,
بالذاكرة.
he talked about memory.
أعتقد إنه
Even
حتى علم النفس
psychology
بيشتغل على
works on
العقد
the
المنسية. بعتقد إنه نحن
forgotten
في عنا
complexes.
علم
I think
نفسي
there is
كبير،
a lot of
والكتابة
forgotten
بتساعدنا
things that
على.
writing help
بظن هي القصة
us
بتصير
recall.
بالكتابة عبر تدفق الشيء.
I
ما
don't
بدي
want to
أتفزلك كثير،
exaggerate.
بس
It's
بيشبه
like the
تدفق الوعي.
stream of
أحيانا أنا
consciousness.
بكون عم بكتب
Sometimes I write
شغلة
something
بلاقيها
and it suddenly
لحالها سحبت لي حكاية
pulls me into a
شخصية كانت
personal
صايرة
story.
معي.
So
فبتصير اللعبة بالعكس،
instead of
بدل ما أنا
me
بشتغل على
working
ذاكرتي
on my
حتى أكتب،
memory, I
بلاقي
find
الكتابة
that
هي اللي عم بتجيب
writing
لي
brings back my
الذاكرة
memory.
تبعي. موضوع
Memory is
الذاكرة
very
كتير
important.
مهم. يعني نحن
Our
قضايانا
causes,
يعني
our
أمراضنا،
obsession is
هواجسنا
everything
كلها
is
مزبطة
related
بالأشياء
to the things we have
النسيانية.
forgotten. That's why I
لذلك يعني
repeat
برجع
that
بكرر إنه علم النفس
psychology
كثير
works on
بيشتغل
this
على هي
technique
التقنية، إنك
of confession or
الاعترافات أو
stream of
تدفق الوعي.
consciousness.
فإيه الذاكرة كثير
Memory
كثير يعني
and
الكتابة
writing is
يعني
an
جزء
important
كبير
part.
من، حتى
I
في
even
بدي
want to go
أروح
further
أبعد
than
من
this,
هيك
Bilal,
بلال،
and say that
إنه مو
not
بس
just
الذاكرة
personal or
الفردية،
individual memory.
ذاكرتك. أنا
I
بقول إنه
believe,
يمكن هذا الحكي
I
ما
don't know to
بعرف
what
لأي حدا
extent
ممكن يكون
what I will say is shocking. I
صادم.
believe
مؤمنة
that
بتعدد
I believe
الحيوات، يعني
in
هي الأمد
the
الأزلي تبع نيتشه.
many lives.
فأنا بعتقد إنه كل واحد
I
فينا
believe
عايش
that
كذا
we had
حياة
lived
قبل.
lives before. So
فأنا أحيانا عن
sometimes
طريق
through
الكتابة
writing,
بتواصل مع حيواتي
I
القديمة أو
talk to
حيوات
my older
يعني
lives,
خلينا نقول
or
الذاكرة
can we say
الجمعية، فيني أقول
collective
هذا
memory
الشيء.
maybe?
يعني
The
حيوات
previous
البشر،
lives of the
الأسلاف،
previous
الأسلاف
ancestors.
تبعي.
كجدتك كمثال أنك عشت
بالضبط
حياتها.
بالضبط.
So there are
ففي
memories,
زواكر في زواكر ما
there are
بنقدر
memories we cannot
نجيبها إلا عن
recall
طريق الكتابة. بعتقد
unless
إنه
we do
الكتابة
writing.
هي دائما، يعني أنا قلبي أحد يسكن
In
رأسي.
my book,
الحل
someone
الوحيد هو أن نكتب
who lives
يعني
in my head, we
المثابرة
should
على
be
عملية
persistent in
الكتابة هي اللي
writing, and
بتساعد
this
على
will help us to
إنك ترجع
restore that
تستعيد هذا
world.
العالم.
Nice.
وبذلك
With this, we come to the
وصلنا
end of
إلى
this
نهاية هذه الجلسة.
interesting.
كان
Thank
لقاء
you,
ممتع
Bilal.
جدا
It
يا
was a
بلال.
very,
عن
very
جد
interesting.
شكرا، عن جد
I
شكرا.
have benefited a lot and I have enjoyed. I want to thank the audience. I want to thank you, the great writer Maha Hassan. I want to thank the technical team and the great
حازم إبراهيم،
translator, our
شكرا
friend
لحازم.
Hazim Ibrahim. Thank you, Hazim. Thank you, AGYA. Thank you for this opportunity. Thank you for all the AGYA team members. I know that you are in an AGYA annual conference, and I welcome the new members to the Academy. Thank you again. And we hope to meet you soon anywhere you want in the world. Goodbye. Thank you.